Be sure to go to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10. You can do the same at the Grizzly Gentleman for some fantastic beard products that'll make your beard look and smell great. You can also go to TCG Player using the affiliate link below and shop there to help support the show. And last but absolutely not least, go to greyvikinggames.com with the link below to get those sweet arena codes.
What is up, Planeswalkers? Justin, aka Six, back with some more Magic the Gathering Technically Arena. I just thought last night about how much I want Lockstone Smiter in Historic. So I decided I was going to make a random ass video where I talk about the top 10, it's just one for each color, but top 10 sounds better. 2 color, 3 mana creatures. Initially this wasn't just going to be creatures, it was just going to be any 2 color 3 mana card, but I ended up only picking creatures, so that's totally fine. And these picks are all essentially cards that I think would add to the power level of certain decks, or just essentially like maybe create new decks, right? So starting off with Azorius, we have Phantatog, and the reason I chose this card is because I think that there are enough enchantments in a blue-white shell that maybe Phantatog is actually in a Tog that would be fair and still possibly see some play. You already have the white-blue Azorius Enchantress deck that like runs Lurrus and stuff. Now, obviously, you couldn't run this with Lurrus as a companion, but you could still run Lurrus in the actual deck. But the reason I really like this is because it can add kind of combo. Gosh, what am I thinking? A combo backup, right? So you have Phantatog in play, but you are buffing the crap out of your core Spirit Dancer, and then you essentially attack with both. If your opponent ends up being able to kill your Spirit Dancer, in response you just sack all of the enchantments on the Spirit Dancer, discard like the cards that you got from Spirit Dancer, and boom, your opponent dies. It's possibly a little bit too weak for Historic right now, but I do think that it would potentially add something very interesting to Historic. Next up for Orzhov, we have Sin Collector. This card I played with a lot when it was in Standard, and I love this card. My biggest concern is that maybe this makes the Human and or Cleric deck a little bit too good, because it does allow you to just kind of yeet an instant or sorcery from someone's hand directly into exile. Now, even though I'm afraid of the fact that this could go into humans or clerics, it is kind of like the perfect colors for those, right? You already have a lot of human support in white-black thanks to Ikoria, and then obviously you have a bunch of cleric support in white-black because that's the colors of clerics predominantly. It's essentially an understated card, but you do get a really good benefit, right? If you're playing a cleric deck and you know that your opponent is playing control, this could just be a sideboard card where you bring it in when you have a decent board, and you hope that your opponent essentially only has one board wipe, and you exile it, and you're cool. It has 1 toughness, so you know it is relatively easy to kill, but again, like, it has synergies, and I think that the stat to cost ratio, plus the creature types, plus the actual ability, I think it makes it, hopefully, for a relatively fair card. Now, there was another card that I was considering for blue-black, but I looked deep inside myself and I realized I just want Prized Amalgam. Prized Amalgam is super interesting because we don't have all of the like the kind of dredge support that we do in, say, a modern list that includes Prized Amalgam. That said, it's still a zombie, which works nicely with zombies. Obviously, you have things like Narfi. There is the 1 mana 2/1 zombie that. Oh, crud. I don't, does that go back to your hand? I don't remember. I'm very sad that I don't remember. But there are some cards that'll go back to your hand in back into play in zombies, which means you can get Prized Amalgam back as well, which is pretty nice. It gives some nice resiliency to the blue-black zombies list, which I really appreciate. But also, one of the balancing things for this is actually the fact that it's 3 mana, right? Zombies already has a ton of Lords at 3. It has Murderous Rider, which is good removal. It has cards that let you draw cards when your zombies die at 3, or you replace your zombies with tokens at 3. So the 3-mana spot in zombies is pretty competitive, which means that you're going to be having to make some sort of sacrifice in order to include this in your deck, which means that you're going to be playing a more synergistic zombie deck, which lowers the power level, because now you're not just playing the best zombie cards. Additionally, this can go into non-zombie decks, things like Dredge, where you can get like Narcomoebas back, and then you get this as well. But we don't have the same payoffs in other formats like Dread Return or whatnot, so we don't have to worry as much about getting this card back, especially since it comes in tap, so you can't even block with it. I think it would be fair, if not pretty good. Goblin Test Pilot is our Izzet card, and this might seem different from all the other ones. This is in here because I find it funny. That's legit it. That's all that matters. I think this card's hilarious. It's a goblin and a wizard, which technically are creature types that matter, but at the same time, it's just random 2 damage. I just find it amusing. That's it. I don't think it'll go into any decks. I don't think it's strong enough to see play, but it's funny. Onto a serious topic. Hey Wizards, you gave us a little bit of support for Minotaurs, but they're not there yet, you know? And I think Ragemonger would be helpful. It reduces the cost of your Minotaurs by black and red, which means that some of the Minotaurs will be free, some of the Minotaurs will be a couple of mana. It's very helpful. You know, it's a 3-mana 2/3, which means its stats are fine in terms of survival. I just want to see more Minotaurs. Even if this is like just a tiny modest bump, it'll take Minotaurs from unplayable to bad but playable. Especially since you can play some of the more expensive Minotaurs. There's no contest for Golgari. It's Dregmangler, right? This card is super sick. Okay, that's not entirely true. I was thinking Varolz as well, but Varolz is a free sacrifice in Golgari / Jund colors that also allows you to get even more value out of the creatures that you sacrificed, and therefore I don't want to add that to Arena when black, green, and Jund sacrifice decks are already very strong. Dregmangler though is interesting because we don't really have a green-black non-sack aggro deck right now. And I think this would be pretty interesting. It's obviously a zombie as well, which means it can go into a black-green zombies list, which of course I like. It has Scavenge, which is something that we don't have on Arena right now, which frankly I really like the style of this card, because in a black-green zombie deck, you're possibly more likely to run kind of mulch effects, where you're putting a bunch of cards into your graveyard anyway. And if you put Dregmangler into your graveyard, you don't care, because at some point you can just put 3 counters on a thing. And you might be thinking, if you've never played with this card, that like 3 counters is not great for 5 mana. Sometimes you just have extra mana. And also, it's a 3-mana 3/3 with haste. Like that's good. Like that's a good rate. So I like Dregmangler. Look, I tried. I really tried to include a card that wasn't this. But I have to realize something about myself. I like werewolves. They're freaking cool. And Emberwolf is freaking sweet. Now, werewolves aren't struggling in terms of being able to be played. However, they're not technically competitive. And I think Emberwolf would help. I don't think it would be tier anything above like 3, maybe 2.5. But Intimidate is great. The fact that it is a lord for your werewolves is fantastic. And then, the most important part is it's just non-human werewolves you control can't transform. It does work with the day-night, or no, the day-bound, night-bound mechanic. Day-night technically is just the OG werewolf mechanic. But it works with the new werewolves, which is pretty good. It's only a 2/2 for 3, which is, you know, fair. I guess one potential issue is that, you know, it can die very easily. It also competes a little bit with some werewolf cards in 3 mana. So, it might not even see play in a werewolf deck. It would be great in Historic Brawl. Technically, I did not make this list with Historic Brawl in mind, but it does work. Boros Reckoner, look. This card is kind of stupid, but also it's hilarious. One, it's a Minotaur, which means it could go into a Ragemonger deck where you're just paying 2 red mana for this, which is totally fine. It can gain First Strike, which is great on a 3/3 body for 3. And then the most important is when it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. I find that fucking hilarious. Obviously, we have a deck that I've tried to make work several times, which is the Brash Taunter. I don't remember the name of the red white knight, Truefire Captain, I think. I've tried to make those decks work, and one of the issues with them is that you have to run a lot of like kind of early control cards that might not necessarily be the best, because you also want them to work with your deal damage to me cards, your Masochism cards. But Boros Reckoner, you can play as like a normal creature, and because you can deal it to any target. If you're facing an aggro deck right now, you don't have to worry as much about wasting that early Deafening Clarion, right? You can play Boros Reckoner, you can block one of their creatures, and then kill another one of their creatures. And if their creatures are only like 2 power and 3 power, if the 3 power creature is a 2 toughness creature, they can't really attack very well, because again, this can just gain First Strike, right? I really like this card. I don't think it would be too strong in Historic. I think it'd be fair. Like, the caveat with like all of these cards is the fact that they're all 3 mana, which shouldn't technically be a lot of mana, but I feel like it is in Historic right now. Lockdown Smiter. This card is the reason I made this list. Absolutely the reason I made this list, and I love this card. Okay, I just love this card. It's an Elephant Soldier, so it's not really going to be put into any deck that's already like too strong. We have green-white decks right now, but a lot of those decks, the company decks, usually are themed around something. So we see a lot of human decks. We see some company life decks. But this is just kind of a good card, like a generically good card. Helps against counter magic decks, which is pretty cool. You just like play like 3 mana for a 4/4 that can't be countered is pretty not bad. And then if your opponent happens to be running something like Kroxa, or any of the kind of non-targeted discard, which we do see from time to time, you get to hit them with it. Like, you get to just put it into play and cackle. One of the reasons this is better than Nullhide Ferox, which has a similar ability as this for the discarding, is that Nullhide Ferox messes with your ability to cast non-creatures. And it also costs 4 mana. Yes, it's a 6/6. But 4 mana and 3 mana, very different. For example, this can get hit off of Collected Company. And then last but absolutely not least, best pick of the 10 probably is Biovisionary. And the reason this is the best pick is because this doesn't really slot anywhere. Like, yes, it's a human wizard, but it's a weird Simic card that doesn't work with like +1/+1 counters. This is just I want to clone the crap out of this card. It's not exactly the toughest of creatures, so you have to pack some protection like dive downs and whatnot, but you just want to be cloning this card. And I don't think the deck would be good, but it's a fun like alt win condition that would just be interesting to build around. I think I just feel like this card would be a ton of fun to play. And that's essentially it. Like, I think this card is fucking hilarious. And, maybe it makes for some good clips. If it was added to the game, Wizards could make a win animation. I mean, they don't make enough win animations, but whatever. But they can make a win animation where, like, all of the Biovisionaries just kind of, like, encroaching on the opponent, and then they explode. And I just find that funny. I just find it funny. And yes, today's video, I'm recording day of. It's actually 11:55 when I'm recording this. I just woke up at 11:30, and yeah, I forgot to record last night. And by forgot, I mean it was too hot. I couldn't. It was like 90 degrees in here. The AC person's supposed to be coming today, so hopefully that works out. Anyway, I'd like to thank my lovely patrons for the continued support. If you'd like to join them and support the show, you'll find links in the description down below. Let me know what 3 mana 2 color card, even if it's not a creature, I stumbled onto this being only creatures, you would like to see added to Arena generally, but Historic specifically, and why. I'm very curious as to what your picks would be, what kind of decks you're looking to slot things into. Wait a minute. Oh, never mind. Okay, it's fine. I was looking at Biovisionary's art, and I thought his left hand was just like put on wrong or something. But no. Let me know what cards you think would be pretty interesting to add to Historic, what decks they would go in, what decks they might create, and yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, I will be one.